Okay, so for ages, right, when we pictured a leader, we thought of someone strong, assertive, basically infallible. But what if the qualities that really drive success are actually things like humanity, listening, and integrity? We're going to dive into why this isn't just some feel-good trend. It is a genuine, powerful competitive advantage.
And look, this isn't just a hunch. The data is screaming it at us. Research from places like UC Berkeley and Columbia Business School shows this massive gap between the typical leader we have, the dominant, assertive type, and the desired leader we all actually want, the one who's empathetic and inspiring. And this isn't a small difference. It's a huge disconnect. It's like our companies are rewarding one thing while their people are desperate for something else entirely.
So that brings us right to the heart of it all, what we call the prosocial advantage. And let me be super clear here. This isn't just about being nice, not at all. This is a strategic way of leading that has real, tangible benefits for the employees, for the company, and yeah, even for the bottom line.
Okay, so what are we even talking about with these prosocial skills? Well, simply put, they're behaviors that are all about helping other people. Think about things like being fair, showing some actual warmth, and making genuine connections. These aren't just little personality quirks, you guys. These are the absolute foundational building blocks for the kind of leader that people actually want to follow.
And the impact, it's profound. It touches every single part of our well-being. You can see how it creates this amazing upward spiral, right? When you have less mental stress, you get more focus and even more physical energy. When you feel emotionally secure in your work relationships, you start to feel a real connection to your purpose. It's the whole package.
So this just goes to show the effects are real, they're concrete. When a leader acts with fairness and really builds those strong connections, it's not just some fluffy, nice-to-have thing. It directly boosts our daily happiness and reinforces our sense of purpose. And what's the result of that? Well, a happier, more focused workforce is always going to be a more productive one. It just makes sense.
Okay, so if all this is so clearly beneficial, the big question is, why isn't this just how things are done everywhere? Well, the reality is, there are some really big, really powerful cultural roadblocks standing in the way.
For starters, you've got simple inertia. We're just stuck in our old ways. It's like we're on a conveyor belt, just churning out the same old leadership model we've always seen. That classic, strong leader is what we're familiar with, so we keep hiring for it, promoting for it, and basically stamping out any chance for real progress. And then there's another huge barrier. Gender stereotypes. These prosocial traits like empathy and collaboration, they often get unfairly slapped with the feminine label. And in a lot of old-school corporate settings, that means they're seen as less valuable than the more stereotypically masculine traits, like being dominant, no matter who has them.
So what happens? You get this self-selection problem. The people who are naturally more empathetic and collaborative, they look at the typical path to leadership, which can be pretty cutthroat, and they just say, you know what? No thanks. And the result is that the very people who would make the best modern leaders are taking themselves out of the running before the race even starts.
So, we've laid it all out. We see the problem, we know what better leadership looks like, and we get the barriers. So, what do we do about it? How do we actually break this cycle for good?
Well, the good news is there is a clear path forward. There are real, practical things that any organization can start doing, like right now, to build this new kind of leadership.
So here's the game plan. It really comes down to changing the very way we evaluate and promote our leaders. We need to start actively looking for and rewarding people with these strong prosocial skills. We have to make feedback from employees a central part of how we evaluate leaders. And maybe, most importantly, these relational skills have to become part of performance reviews, because at the end of the day, what gets measured is what gets done.
But making a change this big, this deep in the culture, it usually needs someone to champion it, a catalyst. And that's where this really interesting and powerful new role comes into play, the Chief Happiness Officer.
Now, before you think this is just about planning parties, let's be clear. This is a serious strategic role. The Chief Happiness Officer connects all the dots. They're involved in developing managers, building positive routines, bringing in metrics for well-being. Their whole job is to make sure a company's values aren't just words on a wall, but are actually lived out every single day. They're literally weaving well-being into the company's DNA.
And the result of all this? It's incredible. You get a workplace where high energy comes from people actually feeling good, not from them burning out. People are productive, sure, but they're also growing, they're regenerating, and they're finding real meaning in what they do. Now that is the true competitive advantage.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with something to think about. After everything we've talked about, what's the one pro-social trait you'd most want to see in the leaders around you? Is it empathy, fairness, integrity? Whatever your answer is, just thinking about it, that's the very first step to building a better future of work.